All right, thank you for coming today. I met Rick several months ago. Came into the gym, came in to pay for a guest fee, and he had his tank top on, and we were chatting, and so he told me his age, and then a few minutes later, I asked him for his passport. He said, "Why do you need my passport?" And I says, "I want to know what planet you came from, because you're definitely not from the Earth. There's some other planet out there that you come from, and you don't see." And I've told many of the club members about Rick, because we had the posters in there, and the age, and that's the most gratifying thing. And to get to that point of your life, that things start declining, and now in his age are inclining, and it's amazing that he looks like that, and he works hard at it. So we're very excited to have you here, and hopefully you're part of the club for a long time, and bring your family and everything else, and enjoy the house. And so, all right, go ahead.
Well, thank you for that gracious invitation, and I guess I'm from the planet Pluto.
Pluto, all right.
Planet Fitness.
So when Mike asked you to do this, I had mixed feelings, because I do a lot of presentations, but this is the first time I've done one on health and fitness. But obviously, looking at me, I'm in pretty good shape. I just turned 69, so I've been doing competitive bodybuilding shows since age 60, and the reason I got started on those is just because I had a curiosity, and then I realized they're a good goal to help me drive myself every year to stay in shape and get better and better. The idea of a bodybuilder is you work on the weak spots. So you guys see some pictures here that you can see my transformation over the last 19 years have been pretty significant. But I think as to understand who I am, I need to first set the tone with, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not going to give you any advice that you should change anything that you're doing. However, there's a lot of stuff that's being prescribed out there that I do not believe in. I think it's actually hurting our society and hurting our people. And so I'm going to give you some tools on how to understand that for yourself and make your own discernment as to how you'd want to adjust things. And the dominant ones are the food industry and the medical industry has the concept of cholesterol all messed up. They have the concept of sugar. And I can sit here and tell you a lot of stuff when you walk away into, well, what can I do with that? And so I'm going to give you some tools as to how you can understand things for yourself. And another pet peeve of mine is I've been doing this now proactively with the mindset of anti-aging and getting better as I age. I've been doing it for the last maybe 15 years. When I started, you go on the internet, and today it's not much different. You Google a topic and you're going to get biased answers that are driven a lot by big pharma, big agriculture, and just disinformation. I'm going to give you tools where you can go find information that is out there with the local residents for anti-aging and longevity. And if you listen to those, I'm sure they will modify some of your habits on what you're doing, because our challenges today are significant increase in childhood and adult ADHD and dementia, all these brain neurological diseases and so forth, and the rampant rise in heart attacks, heart disease and whatnot, which is number 2 behind deaths from actually procedures and doctors. So anyway, I'm going to give you some tools to help you start understanding that. So I'm an aerospace engineer. I have a double degree in aeronautics and astronautics, and met a major milestone in my career. I just retired. I'm 2 months into retirement now after 45 years with Boeing. And I'm going to be flipping through a few charts here. This is not really a presentation, but I have a lot of material. I want to really be a conversation, so we're going to open up for question and answers. But to understand who I am, I've worked on aerospace engineering. Most of my work has been in the space and deep planetary mission launches, vehicles and stuff like that. So I am literally a rocket scientist. I've worked on a lot of rockets in the mid 80s and 90s, and more recently with the Space Launch System, the shuttle system. And I've worked in the military. I've worked in the fighters, the space and launch, commercial, secret sector, and military. So I developed myself into a problem solver. I've also here's just still in the program that I've worked on. And I think that this part of this is important because I'm not a doctor, so where do I get the credibility to even talk to you? Well, it's twofold. One is I take an engineering analytical approach to my health, and that's what I want to share with you. But I've worked on a lot of programs. I worked for Boeing for 45 years in space and defense side. And there I am on the F-22 on the right over there, the U.S. Air Force tanker on the left, and so forth. And in the lower right, you can see me at high school graduation, right next to when I became a senior executive for Boeing as an engineering chief engineer. So, and you see this represents the number of people, engineers in Boeing. And the little red tip at the top is the percentage of people that attain my level. And I'm not saying that in a boasting way. I'm saying that so you understand who I am and what I bring to the table here. But I'm a senior technical fellow, which is a senior executive of a Boeing company. So the most important message here, all this is coming, is I'm a problem solver. And that'll become important in just a few seconds. So here I am, contrasting my engineering persona and my master bodybuilding, and I think it gets a lot of conversation. As an executive, I have a large mahogany office, and in there you'll see all of my bodybuilding trophies mixed up with my NASA, Boeing, and defense and commercial airplane awards. So it's kind of an odd mix that you don't see too much. So here is my transformation, and the transformation needs a little bit of explanation, but you can see, and this is to Mike's point, and again, I need the out of humility I say this, I'm not out of boasting, but I've gotten better every single year. Not only physically better, internally better, mentally better, sharper, stronger, and I can outperform most kids in their 20s and 30s in a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of evidence that it says that by the time most people get to age 30, they never sprint for the rest of their life. There's a degrade, and it has to do with lifestyle and diet and everything else and so forth. So I'm trying to break that mold, and so this is what got Mike's attention. And so just last Saturday, I had a bodybuilding competition in the upper right over here. And so this is April 11th, I turned 69. So these pictures are from last Saturday, so 1 week ago. And so I actually look forward to how I look in my 70s and 80s. And so that's a mindset that I have on continual growth. And that means you have to be proactive. Sitting on a couch is not going to do it. Eating drugs, that's not going to do it. And there's so much different information out there. Where does somebody go? And so, again, I'm not going to flood you with do what I do exactly. I'm going to give you some tools on the internet to understand for yourself, some entertaining tools and so forth. So anyway, so this is kind of my story. As part of my 45-year retirement ceremony, my daughters helped me build some charts here. So this is a little collage showing my body building journey, and then I have some that shows my aerospace and my products and so forth. So it's been a very rewarding career, and I'm now moving into retirement. Bodybuilding is going to stay part of it because it's my DNA, it's who I am, that forces me. And you're going to see, if I go back one picture, I'm going to talk here in a second about up in the upper left-hand corner there, you're going to see an older pudgy white guy. And I was sick internally, and I was sick for most of my life. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, because when I finally got that figured out, that's where I had an aha moment that I had to be proactive with my own health. But the idea of a bodybuilder is in 2016 at age 60, a friend of mine talked me to do my first bodybuilding show. And so going through the process of cutting and learning and how proteins and carbohydrates and water and salt, how it affects your body, I really liked understanding that, so I got better. But what I realized is I really didn't have any abs or much leg muscle development. So the concept of a bodybuilder is you work on the weak spots. So here's a testimony. Look at my abs in the lower left and the progression over the years. So slow, and then I always say slow gains remain. If you're going to do steroids and you get jacked pretty fast, you see that with all the professionals. They get big in just a few months, and then when they're done, they get back. My set point is pretty solid. I don't fluctuate from my weight, and my total body fat at the highest is 12 to 14%. When I'm on stage, it's down around 6%, which is 2% sub-Q, and that's the picture in the lower right over there. It's about 2% sub-Q or subcutaneous fat. So I don't fluctuate. So do I do steroids? That's a really good question. The answer is yes. I do doctor prescribed testosterone, and I'm a huge fan of that. And I have a few charts I want to show you on that, because a lot of people feel that that's cheating and so forth. But you know what? I'd rather cheat when it comes to that. But that part of anyway, I'm wondering. My daughter's going to keep me on track if I get off.
I was about to really win.
Yeah, then we win. So anyway, we're going to talk through some of that stuff. If you go to my website, which I have posted, MensAging.com, I built a website because I really got. We're talking about 12 years ago when weren't all these recent podcasts and everything. That's changed everything. Like the Joe Rogan show, you get a lot more honest information than when you go to Google. Because when you go to Google, most of the answers are driven by big pharma and the medical and so forth. And so they are directing, and they give you a lot of disinformation. But so anyway, so I built the website because I was seeing the wrong information on the website, and I wanted to start documenting what I do and develop that journey. So I won't go. I'm not going to read through this, but it is on my website. I got frustrated due to the lack of good, concise, and comprehensive information geared specifically towards helping older individuals understand that they do have options to take control over their bodies and minds, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I don't want to dig too deep into this. This is the same thing, essentially. Holistic health management is taking control of several factors in your body and being proactive with your own health. Okay, so these are the talking elements that I want to touch upon briefly on these things here. That to really be optimum, you have to be thinking about, to some degree, addressing all of these things here. The gut is the center of our universe. Our doctor system today is the best analogy I can give you is I have a beautiful bonsai tree. It's my pride and joy. I've worked it for years, and all of a sudden I see some brown leaves, and it's really distraughting. So I take it to the allopathic doctors, the regular doctors, and I take it and check in, and she says, "Oh, you need to go to the leaf specialist down the hall, to the left, to the right." And you go down there, and he's sitting there and he's looking at the leaves and he's doing some testing, and he says, "I think we need this topical ointment, or we need to do this and do this and do this." But that's not the problem. The problem is the nitrogen level in the soil is depleted, or it's got some kind of other problems in the soil. The soil is the gut for us. That's where everything stems from. So if our soil is bad, we're going to be bad, and it's going to cause neurological problems, dementia, Alzheimer's, everything else. And so our food system is controlling a lot of that. So I'll give you some insight as to how to start getting that under check. That has to be number one. Nutrition and gut biology is number one. If they're not, you can't do bodybuilding and work your way out of a bad diet. It's got to be your number one focus. But obviously, strength training is a big part. Hormone balance is a big part, and that's more than just testosterone. Doing a certain amount of cardio keeping a high metabolism. And we'll talk about sarcopenia, which is a loss of muscle mass, and how it accelerates in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And as it starts accelerating, you're losing more and more muscle, you're losing more metabolism, you're not eating any less. And so now you're starting to put on more visceral fat, putting the pressure around all the organs, and you're slowly killing yourself. So we'll talk about that briefly too. Posture and confidence. Genetically, I used to have a hump right here. Everyone in my family was walking around like this, so was I. And I have to, chiropractic care I had. How you carry yourself, is huge. And if you do it long enough, muscle memory stays there. And so anyway, sleep is the worst part of my regiment. I tend to wake up quite often, not get enough sleep. So I'm still working on that one. Emotional health. You can go on the internet and take these, they're called biological versus chronological age. Okay, I'm 69, but biologically, if I answer 100 questions, it will come back and say I'm either older than my age or I'm younger than my age. And I will tell you, I've looked at about 6 or 7 of these surveys, and almost every one of them, more than half the questions are related to stress. Marital stress, financial stress, just commute stress, work stress. We have stress all the time. And that stress is affecting our cortisol. It's affecting our emotions, our thought behaviors and everything. So stress is the biggest accelerator in decline for killing you than anything else. That is huge. And it's the one that's not given as much attention. And so on my website, you can go see an article I wrote, and it talks about stress. And it starts out, and this is something I wrote, it starts out with the Swahili word, Hakuna Matata. No worries. No worries translates as no stress. And I said, so we're going to have stress and everything. You can't get rid of stress, but how you respond to stress and how you let it excite you and get your cortisol and your hormones and your fight and flight, doing that every single day. That's a slow killer. So we don't have to be happy with the stress, but we have to accept that I don't really have control over it. So, Hakuna Matata, and there's some folks in my family, I got to remind that too once in a while. I have to remind myself too. But anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. But vitamins and supplements is obviously a big one, and we'll talk about some of what I do. It's maybe not for everybody, but there's a few basics. And then we're back to nutrition, hydration. Every day I drink at least 2 gallons of water. That sounds pretty radical to most people, but it's natural for me. It's, you picture a mountain stream that's all beautiful and whatnot, and then all of a sudden got a drought and now it's all dried up and it's septic. Our body's the same way. We need to flush. I do want to talk about, if you go on the internet and you type in allopathic doctors, that's the regular doctors, and they are not trained to know anything about nutrition, and they are there to treat signs and symptoms with either medications and or procedures. And I know that there's some getting better today, so I don't want to sum up, but I'll tell you, if you got trauma and you're bleeding to death, you got a heart attack, you want those guys. They're the firefighters. They need to take care of you. But they are not trained to keep you healthy as you age and keep you flourishing and combat the neurological problems, dementia, Alzheimer's, and everything else. And I'm going to tell you a few things that's causing that, and I would hope it scares the snot out of you that you're going to change, because if you don't, you have a high risk of falling into that. And we've all seen that now. So, and we never saw that done 30, 40 years ago. Very, very rare. Allopathic medicine, or naturopath, excuse me, they're trained to look for the reason why. And here in a second, I'm going to tell you my problem and how I had to reach up to a naturopath. She found my problem, and I'll talk about that in a second. This one, the next chart. There's a third type of medicine that is, that's me. Thinking that's what I'm running it. I was back to work. Functional medicine. It actually, and I put the picture of the bonsai tree because that's where I tell that story about the bonsai tree and the doctors. The functional medicine person, if you took that bonsai tree into it, he's going to step back and look at the whole tree. He's not going to look at the leaves right here. He's going to immediately he's going to go do soil testing and whatnot. He's going to say, you got an algae in there, you got a parasite in there, you got no nutrients in there. We got to fix your gut. And so, okay, I don't have that book, but there's a couple books that I've read, Grain Brain, and I can't remember, and it talks about how the grains are causing problems in our gut. Just imagine, everybody knows how to make a loaf of bread, at least ideally they do. You take flour, you take warm water, and you take yeast, you mix them together, put them in a warm environment, keep them moist, and it grows. What's really happening there? You've woken up the bacteria to start multiplying, and it's growing in there. That happens in our gut every single day when we wake up from a fasted state and we have breakfast. What we put in our gut is going to dictate what bacteria starts growing for that day. And Firmicutes is a bad bacteria. It causes a lot of stress on the body, and it loves carbohydrates and sugar. And so just like brewer's yeast, it will start multiplying that for the day, and it'll get a jump start on the rest of the bacteria. Where if you wake up and you eat fermented foods, it'll flourish something called Recounts, which is a good, healthy. So the point is, I don't want to go too far down that path, but what you eat first thing in the morning will dictate how you feel and how your body responds for the rest of the day. And you're going to hear that the sugars and the breads and the starches and the pastas and all those things, they're not that good for you, and we'll talk about that. And, anyway, so functional medicine is a step higher than allopathic, naturopathic, that it looks at the entire body. And so it's actually starting to gain in the consideration in the medical insurance, because they're starting to realize for the first time it might be more affordable to pay a little bit more up front and try to keep our patients healthy as they get older.